Okay, so now let's talk about relative minimum and maximum value. So whenever you see the word value, we mean function value. And so remember, we just discussed when we talk about function values, we mean y values. Y equals f of x. Y is the function value. All right, so in this section, we're going to talk about the relative minimum and maximum values of our function. So relative minimum just means it's the smallest in its general area, and relative maximum means it's the biggest in its general area. So if you look at this graph, you can figure out the biggest in its general area here and here. Those are the big ones. So maybe I'll do this. Relative max here and here. And then the smallest values in their general area, that would be here, here, and here. Relative min. So you may be wondering, what about up here? Well, this actually goes up forever. We can never reach the ending because it's going to infinity, which is not a number. So we won't say that there are any maximums happening here. It continues to go up forever. Okay, so here it's easy to see where the min and max are, but the terminology is different. Okay, so it says determine the location and the value. So location means one thing, value means another. All right, so I mentioned before, what does value of a function mean? The y value, which means the location that the y value happens is the x value. So to answer this question, determine the location and value of the relative maxima. Well, we found them up here. So now we just have to break them up into x and y components. Let's start with location. So what are the locations of our two, actually they're the same function value, but on our picture, these two places, what are the x values here? Well, they're not exactly clear, so I'm going to go with negative 1.7 maybe, and also a positive 1.7. Those are the x values where the relative max occurs. And so the value, so the maximum value of our function, the relative max, that's at negative 6. Only one value. All right, let's do the same for the minima. So the relative minimum values, we have 3 points here. Okay, so the location, so these are the x values where the minimum occur. Again, we have some weird ones. I'm going to go with negative 3.7. This one is at x equals 0. And this one looks like positive 3.7. It was really hard to find a graph that was perfect. All right, and so those minimum values are, looks like y is negative 15 for these two, and here y is negative 9. All right, so we figure out the location and value, and you can put these into points like negative 1.7 comma negative 6 and 1.7 comma 6. Those are the points that they occur. All right, so now I just want you to make sure that you understand all of these things, and if you have questions about them, ask me in class.